Some of you may have noticed in the Bee a week or two ago that a question was raised by a fellow named Paul Mitchell about redistricting process and redistricting lines. And it raised the question, the specter of which was who represents which districts until the end of their term. The city attorney came out with a public opinion today, just a couple of hours ago, to look at questions about recall. That's been a question that's been raised by some constituents. I raised the question to the city attorney, do I in fact represent my old District 3 until the end of my term? Because that was the assumption of myself and, excuse me, most of my constituents. It turns out that embedded in this opinion from our city attorney's office, that is indeed correct. And that would apply to all of us, to Jay, to Rick, to all of us. We all represent our previous districts until the end of our elected term. That is how the California Election Code reads. And in fact, that is a proper interpretation as stated by Susana Alcala Wood to me on the phone not long ago. I have to say this is a little bit earth-shaking. A very significant difference from what we were told when redistricting happened, that the district boundaries took effect immediately. It turns out they do take effect immediately, but only as pertains to the next election, so that those people who are going to run for those revised districts could start to line up their campaigns and so forth. But in fact, I must tell you, I'm very pleased that I will be representing the area where I live and the old District 3 until the end of my term, which is the end of our session this year. This is a pretty big piece of news. And, we've all adjusted, right, to the new boundary lines. We've had other council members taking over parts of the districts that we've represented for years. But in fact, that was not the proper decision. I would like the city attorney, Ms. Alcala Wood, if she's on the line, to clarify this, because to me, it's very important. It has been very disappointing for me to have another council member come in and sort of take over projects that I've worked on for so long. And in fact, we have different opinions about how things should work. So, Madam City Attorney, can you get on the line and clarify this for us?
I just want to say, this is a very important question because the city has told the entire community, including our council, that they are now representing new districts, or at least partially new districts as a result of redistricting. And if Councilmember Harris's assertion is correct, we have a real problem here. And if it isn't correct, then maybe a charter change is in order, because I don't agree with the idea that districts should be changed in the middle of a calendar year before the next election. But what is the answer to this very important question, please?
You're on mute, Susana.
What about now?
Gotcha.
Yep, okay. We hear you. Okay.
In responding to the question posed to us initially by the city clerk, which was specifically if we could provide her an opinion on whether or not, or what boundaries were included in any recall involving the Council District 4 representative, we initially opined on the matter, and then I got a secondary opinion just to confirm our opinion of how the charter read. This is an unprecedented question. It's a case of first impression for the city. We have not actually ever had this issue presented to us. And so I wanted to make sure that we took time to respond to it. We had a number of inquiries. I'm sure all of your office did. I know the city clerk's office had a number of inquiries from the public. And so I prepared the public opinion so that we could actually post it. My previous opinion was just to the city clerk, and so it was confidential. And so we posted that. What I explained to Councilmember Harris today, as he inquired as to whether or not he continues to represent District 3 until the end of his term, is that in answering this question about the boundaries for the recall, we were able to definitively address this question and say, yes, he remains the council member of District 3 until the end of his term, just like all the other council members. You're tied to your old term in which you were elected. That doesn't mean the new council district maps aren't effective upon adoption. They are. And the city clerk is using them to prepare for the upcoming elections. And she is, that's the whole purpose of drawing council district maps. And so that they have a boundary by which the voters can then elect a representative from. And so they are effective and they are being used. But you were all, those of you who are affected by them, or those of your current council members, you're tied to the districts in which you were voted in until the end of your term. And so that is what I explained to the council member. It's our charter covers a lot of these things. Oftentimes it comes to us to interpret charter provisions when questions such as this come up. And if our charter doesn't specifically cover them, then we follow the elections code.
Madam City Attorney, can I ask you?
Sorry, can I clarify this really quick? Sorry, because this is all news to all of us.
It is.
And I just want to say that, Mayor, if I can, I just want to say that, because yeah, we were told on December 16th, quite like, okay, this is your new district. And so you're saying, okay, we represent our old districts and so we'll have to work that out, I guess, from constituent affairs, because I know I started getting forwarded emails right away from a district that I didn't know. And so I guess the next secondary question then is like, what does that mean for parts of the city that won't have a representative elected then this year? So thinking specifically, if I could use my district, for example, like River District, Isak, essentially then after this election just wouldn't have a representative until 2024. Is that your interpretation?
No, they have a representative currently because there are parts of the old district that are covered by Councilmember Harris, to use your specific example. And he remains that council member. It's the new district lines that have been drawn have resulted, of course, in, because his residence is not located in the new district, he can't run again. And so once the November elections have concluded, then we will have representatives that have been elected from that district as it is newly drawn. And so there will be, in essence, almost an overlap of the district.
But for the areas that don't have an overlap, so I'm naming specific neighborhoods that were in Councilmember Harris's office that are now not going to have anybody after this election in 2022 because the new District 3 doesn't include them. Do they call us? Who do they call when they have constituent issues?
Well, specifically for District 3, they'll continue to call the council member which was elected from District 3, which is Councilmember Harris. There is a period of transition right now for those that are not changing, the council members' offices, I understood. There's a lot of these issues that are raised I would not be aware of in my role as a city attorney as far as how the council members have reacted in response to this. But there would be a period of transition for some council members for areas, but and the Councilmember Harris specific, because he asked me the question, he remains a council member of bound to those old, his old district.
No, and that's not my question, Susana. I think my question is.
There will be. Let me try. There will be a new member. There will be a new member elected to succeed Councilmember Harris in District 3, and whoever wins that election will represent all of District 3 as reconstituted.
Correct.
So there won't be a gap. Right now, Councilmember Harris represents his old district.
Correct.
You represent existing District 4. Come December, Councilmember Harris, who is not running for re-election, will be succeeded in a new District 3 by whoever wins that election. And Councilmember Valenzuela, you will represent the new District 4 come come.
Hold on, because that's not what I heard. That's why I'm asking the question, Mayor, because that's not what I just heard Susana say. So my understanding is that once Councilmember Harris is replaced by someone in the new District 3, Susana, I'm specifically talking about the parts of the old District 3 that are not covered by the new District 3, right? So I'm like thinking River District and Isak, River Park are those neighborhoods, right? So once that election happens, who do they call for constituent work if I'm still representing the old District 4?
You will, I will tell you, you will represent the new District 4 and parts of the old District 4. That's what will happen. Because of course.
Can Susana answer that question, Mayor? Because I don't think that's what she was just saying.
So the district lines have been redrawn. Any new council members coming in for those districts that have been redrawn or existing council members, that will be their new district. And so, however, for the sake of the council members that are leaving office, they continue to represent the districts to which they were elected. And so that's why in Councilmember Harris specific and Councilmember Chenier and anybody else affected by it, they represent the district to which they were voted into, and they continue to do so.
I'm sorry, get the answer to the question, because then I want to back up a little bit here, because there's something fundamentally concerned about all of this, okay?
And I know I have a couple of other council members' hands.
I understand, but I'm going to ask a question now, please. I want to back up because I want the so-called recall question has sort of clouded all of this. But set that aside. Did the city communicate to the public and the council members after the Independent Redistricting Commission drew the lines that the council members' districts changed immediately? Did we communicate that? And did we communicate that in error back in December?
That was communicated. Was it communicated in error? That I don't. I'd have to see the communications, Mayor.
Well, it's on the city's website, and yeah. Jeff Harris and Rick Jennings now has been working for several months here, thinking that he's representing Land Park and Curtis Park, and Jay Chenier has not been, so no, people have been, it has been reported it has been reported on the city's website, and we communicated this, and it was in error. And this is a fundamental question. And I'm concerned about this. And now we're hearing in April that in fact, that isn't true. So I do think we need to go back and look at how this occurred because the public has been confused. And the members have been confused for now going on December, January, February, March for 4+ months. I'm sorry.
Well, Mayor, I wouldn't say confused. I mean, we were operating under the direction we got from the city.
I understand, but it was
in your new district.
But it was
so if that's not true, then we have a lot of work to do in the community to help them understand.
It was incorrect.
Yeah.
The information was incorrect. And now we're hearing tonight, and because of the recall question raised the broader issue, but that's why I want to set aside that question. And the city concluded something back in December about who represents where that wasn't accurate. Is that, if I'm wrong, please, I'm not trying to make anybody's life hard here, but this is a problem, obviously, and we need.
I understand the questions that you're all asking. It's just not accurate to say the maps were not effective. They are effective. They were.
I understand they're effective, but
it's their effect, I think, is what you're asking, and we're trying to clarify their effect. And the recall, the question that the clerk asked us to answer with regards to its effect on the recall petition, brought to light all these other issues that had not previously been answered because they simply just didn't come up. And but it's inaccurate to say that information was in error. It's the multiple effects of it is what you're now asking for me. And there's any number of things we can do to help clarify that for the public. Issuing the public opinion was one, because if you read that public opinion within it, it talks about why everybody's tied to their district. And so I'm happy to issue
Mayor,
more.
you have 3 councilors.
Yeah, so go ahead on
Yeah.
this issue, on this issue.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead, Angelique, please.
Right. My cheeks are going to start bleeding from biting them. This is insane. This is not even my first round of redistricting. And I'm now learning that in 2011, I actually represented downtown for an additional year that I didn't know about. So here's the thing. We need to agendize this. This cannot be like an off comment. There are a lot of implications to saying that the maps go into effect. So perhaps what I would recommend to the city attorney and the city clerk is that you work through those questions. For example, there are parks, PIF, and Quimby dollars. Which districts are they attached to? Or when you say the maps transition, what exactly portions transition? Because not only has Councilmember Valenzuela pointed out to you that there would be certain communities left unrepresented under this logic, but there are also districts that would be duly represented. Let me give you an example. Right now, Councilmember Loloe and I both are working together on Robla. Technically, under what we're hearing, he is still their council member, not me. And he is until he is reelected. So it doesn't, when my seat goes to somebody else in the end of December, they will have been voted for by the Robla folks, but Councilmember Loloe is still tied to Robla, because if you were to recall him, Robla would have a vote until he is selected by his new district, which would technically mean both the new District 1 person and the previous District 2 person simultaneously represent that community until Mr. Loloe is elected by a different electorate. That also means that communities like Roca or Isak could, for a period of time, be left without anyone. So I'm not suggesting that any of those are the answer, but what I am saying is what I am hearing is quite confusing. And I don't think it's appropriate for an offhanded conversation at the end of a council meeting. We really need to agendize it. And we as council need to understand very clearly what our roles are. And it needs to be researched carefully, and not just by our city attorney. She can't be expected to know this off the top of her head or after a couple weeks of research. She needs to have an opportunity to hire people that are experts in this area, bring them on, talk to them, and do a significant amount of research with the clerk and bring it back to us so that we can very clearly understand who is representing which community. And if there is overlap, which I suspect there will be, because there's no version of this where that doesn't happen, how that is determined, because you may have colleagues who don't agree. And I'm intentionally using Councilmember Loloe and myself because it's unlikely we would disagree. But let's say we did all of a sudden. Then who's the council member? Right? And what role does the mayor, who is the only citywide elected, play in resolving some of those issues? And Susana, my question to you is, because this is clearly not been cleaned up by any city attorney before you and just happens to fall in your lap this time because there happens to be a recall happening at a timing that has pointed out to us an error in our ways for many years. My ask of you is, please also make recommendations to us if we need to do a charter cleanup to fix a portion of this, because this has clearly been wrong for some time. So that's my ask here, Mayor, is a clear agenda item with some clear guidance and some recommendations and an opportunity for our staff to get some assistance in what has obviously been long wrong in the city of Sacramento.
So let's do that. Let's agendize this for next week, because this is a really.
I don't know if she can get that done in 1 week, Mayor. She needs to have some time. I don't know.
Well, whatever time it takes. I'm concerned. I don't know how this happened. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. All I know is that in my city, there is significant confusion about which member represents which area now. And so this has to be clarified and resolved very, very soon so that the members and the public know which area they represent.
Mayor, let me just say that I agree. Time is of the essence. This needs to be resolved.
Yeah. Councilmember Chenier?
I have a separate issue, so I don't know if there's more on this.
Okay. Madam City Attorney, tell us what you recommend here about what is the best way we can go about clarifying this in a timely fashion. What's your recommendation?
Well, I appreciate time is of the essence. I would agree with that. And I thank you, Councilmember Ashby, because you've hit the nail exactly on the head. There is several things wrong with our charter as we have learned through this whole new redistricting process that would probably, that's the fix. A lot of things put in there that nobody anticipated what the effect was going to be. And we're kind of running with it and interpreting it as we go. I probably need more than a week, though. I probably need at least 2. I'd love 3. We did already engage outside counsel to help us on this, so that will help me go faster. I can come. How about if I say I come back to you? I'm going to aim for 2, but please know it could be 3. Council meeting dates.
I think that's fair. Okay.
I'm sorry, but like, and I'm sorry, Mayor, to keep belaboring this, but what do we do in the meantime? Like, if I get a call from somebody in like a different, do I just?
You are asking me to revisit the opinion I'm given. So my opinion currently is that the council member who was elected to that district remains a council member.
Right.
That's my opinion right now.
Okay.
I actually think that works because we haven't made any changes to the council yet. So since we haven't had an election, it's fairly easy for each of us to hold on to the districts that we had 2 months ago for 3 more weeks for her to figure it out.
Well, if I can say, obviously, we've already, I'm a little stunned, not often. We've invested money and made commitments to our new districts. I lost 5 major neighborhoods in redistricting, I think more than anyone here.
Thank you, Jay, for bringing them over to District 6.
No problem. Well,
Thank
6
you,
and
Jay,
6
you're
and
doing great taking in some of D8. You've been rocking it. So.
No, it's all good, but do we not make commitments on anything? We're planning summer right now.
Yep.
We're planning events in other districts. We're spending council funds doing these things. And, for me, Curtis Park, Southland Park, Zeeburg Park, Colonial Heights, and Lawrence Park have all moved to other people. So by Susana's opinion, they're now back with me, at least for the next 8 months.
For the next 3 weeks, while she figures out what
3
happens.
weeks or 8 months. So
You can hold on for that long.
But I just want to suggest it. I will send you questions that I have, and I'm hoping that all of my colleagues will do the same, so we can get as comprehensive as possible on this.
We should have had an implementation plan. That's what we should have had.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So I have a separate issue, if I can, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry.